For American car makers, you're probably wondering who is most hit by this. And what we can do is we can draw up a list of the companies from the most vulnerable, and the most vulnerable are the companies that aren't making as many, that a smaller proportion of their cars is actually made in America, to the least vulnerable. So the higher this line is, and the red one there is the least vulnerable. Who do you think is the least vulnerable of all the car manufacturers? Guess what? It's Elon Musk's company. Coincidence or not? You be the judge, but...
What? Come on now, dog. Come on, man.
Hey, what's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Smart Money Habits. Today we're taking a deeper look at the tariffs and how they affect different areas of the economy. Now, I'm not going to hold you. Let's jump right into it.
I got you, homie. Let's go.
The latest chapter heading in a long saga, and I'm afraid this is going to go on for quite some time. Quite a roller coaster here. The latest, of course, is that Donald Trump wants to impose extra tariffs on car imports. Why? Well, it comes back to this chart, a chart that he really will not like at all. This is showing you US exports of cars around the world going back to the 1960s, and the key thing is comparing exports with imports. Look at that line. That's imports into the US of cars. And of course, the difference between that one line and the other one is the trade deficit. So the US sucking in many more cars from overseas than it makes or sends out itself. And that's what Donald Trump really wants to try to remedy. And he wants to do it through tariffs, raising the question, what are the level of tariffs going to be? And I'm afraid there's no simple answer here because there's quite a lot of different categories we can talk about here. First of all, so simplest, there's cars. And right now, the tariff on cars, it's called the Most Favored Nation tariff, MFN, is 2.5%, so really quite low on cars. And of course, on top of that, you're going to have that 25%. So that goes up to just over 25%. But it's not just the finished cars. It's also the components in those cars that then get kind of worked out, and you have to pay a tariff on just how much of the stuff isn't made in America. It's going to be very difficult to work that out. But nonetheless, you're talking about 25% there. So cars, components, light trucks are already actually tariffed, not at 2.5%, but at 25%. It's the chicken tax. Basically, back in the 1960s, Europe wasn't importing as much. They had kind of import blocks on chickens, factory farm chickens from the US. And in retaliation, Lyndon Johnson said, right, we're going to put tariffs on your trucks. The chicken tax, still there, still in place. And on top of the chicken tax, now comes another 25%, this Donald Trump tariff.
Hell no.
Hey, I think we can all agree these tariffs are going to be bad news. The price of everything is going to go up.
But think about those who are making Chinese electric vehicles. The picture for them is kind of extraordinary. You've probably never seen anything like this. So they already have to pay, there's the 2.5%, but on top of that, you've got 100% tariffs from Joe Biden. He put those extra tariffs on Chinese EVs. Then you've got another 20% that Donald Trump put on top of that. Then potentially 25% tariffs on anyone who's importing oil, crude oil from Venezuela. That's one of the latest tariffs. And now you've got another 25% on top of that. I mean, it's extraordinary, really. Tot it up, and you're talking about it's over 170% tariffs. Amazing, really. And then you've got light trucks at 50%, and then components as well. Of course, this is going to affect many countries because when it comes to imports, when it comes to manufacturing, there is nothing more iconic or important than car manufacturing. It's really at the heart of most countries, particularly all of these countries' manufacturing sectors. And it's kind of the usual suspects. So Mexico there, Japan, Canada, these are all going to face big tariffs, 25% tariffs potentially. And just look there, the UK, people don't think of the UK as being a big car manufacturer. Well, it's nowhere near as big as some of the others, but still the sixth biggest import of cars into the US, mostly high value cars. So you're talking about JLR, you're talking about luxury vehicles, but it really does add up. And actually, when you look at the UK and where the UK sends its cars to, there is, again, no single country that is as important to the UK car industry for exports as the United States. This is a really big deal for the UK car industry as well as the rest. Now, I said earlier, it's not just cars, it's also the components that go inside the cars. And this is where things get kind of complicated, but also quite interesting. So what I'm going to do is we're going to kind of dissect and think about America's most popular car, the Ford F-150 pickup truck. and just how much of the bits and pieces in there actually come from America. Because you might have thought this is entirely made in America, and to some extent it is, but inside it, the components, they come from various other places. So what we've got here is a chart showing you the percentage of the value of that car that is actually made in America. And a few years ago, back in the kind of early 2010s, it was up at around, you were talking about kind of, what is it, 75% there. But a number of the factories making things like engines and so on have shut down since then, particularly around Michigan, with the upshot that now you're talking about only 45% of it being US and Canadian. And also it's that question of, how much of the Canadian manufacturing is going to be charged, is going to face tariffs. So even for iconic American cars like this, potentially tariffs, and that pushes up the price. Same thing again for America's most popular electric vehicle, the Tesla Model Y. Now, here, more of this car is made in the US, but say, for instance, consider the motor, that's a US production. You've got the battery pack that's put together in Nevada at the Gigafactory there. It's a Japanese company, actually, Panasonic, that make the batteries, but nonetheless, it's America, although some of the chemicals are coming from elsewhere. Overall, 70% US Canadian content in the Model Y, whereas you've got about 25% Mexican components, and then there's another 5% or so from elsewhere. Like I say, you've got those chemicals going into the battery. All of this raises a question. Okay, so for American car makers, you're probably wondering who is most hit by this. And what we can do is we can draw up a list of the companies from the most vulnerable. And the most vulnerable are the companies that aren't making as many, that a smaller proportion of their cars is actually made in America, to the least vulnerable. So the higher this line is, and the red one there is the least vulnerable. Who do you think is the least vulnerable of all the car manufacturers? Guess what? It's Elon Musk's company. Coincidence or not? You be the judge. But
How? Hold on, bro. How?
if you look at what's happened to share prices of car makers, well, this is showing you share prices of car makers over the past year or so. They've got Stellantis, Toyota, GM, some of them down quite a lot. Look at Stellantis, down 59%. But so far, there is one winner. It's been a roller coaster for Tesla, and a lot of these shares are down a wee bit in the last couple of days, unsurprisingly, given what we've heard about these tariffs. But Tesla up by 51% over that period, like down from that period there. Just underlining how much of a roller coaster this is. And I'm afraid this roller coaster has only just begun, and there is going to be much more to come.
Hey, thank you again for watching the video. I really do appreciate it. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Until next time, take care of yourself, and we're out.